assume you've heard by now, but maybe not. Pitcher Fernando Valenzuela, baseball icon from back in his day many years ago. Guy that won a lot of awards early on in his career and had a cult following with the Dodgers. Has died. He was only 63 years old. Fernando won the Cy Young Award and the Rookie of the Year way back in the hot tub time machine, the year 1981. And the only pitcher to still, to this day, have won the Cy Young and the Rookie of the Year in the same year. Obviously, only do that one time in your career, and Fernando did it. The Dodgers released a statement on Tuesday night that Fernando, who I had heard a couple months back was not doing well, he died at a hospital in Los Angeles. Not a lot of details to provide, but only 63 years old and had been in some poor health, lost a lot of weight the last time we had seen him. Death comes just on the tip of the World Series here, which begins on Friday night. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but the Dodgers and Yankees, a World Series that Fernando, in his day, knew a thing or two about, pitching against the Yankees in the Fall Classic. So let us discuss the question, how are you going to remember Fernando Valenzuela, the life of Fernando? Obviously, we do a sports radio show, so his time with the Dodgers, but just in general. So I've got Svengali, Country Cousins, and Soul Food. And we will combine all of these things together, and we're going to win your heart over. You see, Fernando Valenzuela was able to win the hearts, the minds, and the souls of many, many a fan. And over the years, I have spent a lot of time, not recently, I'm not really welcome at Dodger Stadium much these days because of Ohtani. But when I was out there, and I was very fortunate to be around Fernando at the end of his career as a player, and he worked as a broadcaster for many years and held court in the media dining room at Dodger Stadium with all the scribes hanging out and the radio slobs, and just one of the guys hanging out. But as far as Fernando, the baseball player, how are you going to remember Fernando? The magical delivery, looking towards the heavens, the screwball. And in the big picture, he played 11 seasons, which is a good run. Played 17 years, I believe, in the big leagues, but 11 years with the Dodgers. Pitched in over 300 games in L.A. and then bounced around at the end of his career for teams like the Padres and the Phillies and teams like that. But regardless of all that, Fernando, a Dodger through and through. And I have said this, and I said it while he was alive. I'll say it now. Certainly it gets amplified, and this is not hyperbole. Fernando Valenzuela is the single most important player in the Los Angeles era of the Dodgers. They've changed owners a bunch over the years. The players have changed. And you say, well, Jackie Robinson. But Jackie Robinson was a Brooklyn Dodger. I'm talking about the L.A. vintage of the Dodgers. Fernando, by far, head and shoulder, not even close, secretariat compared to every other Dodger. That includes legends like the current Dodgers with Ohtani and going back to Mike Piazza when he was the most popular guy, and everyone else. Fernando Valenzuela, I'll tell you why. It's rather obvious here, but you're a little slow. No player had the Svengali effect that still to this day is alive and well because of what they did, in this case, over 40 years ago. But we know Fernando's story, right? A Mexican-born phenom. He inspired Fernando Mania in the early 1980s. He made his debut in 1980, but it was 1981 where all the madness began. And Dodger baseball, because of that, in the early 80s, has become, in many ways, a religion in large parts of the Mexican-American community in Southern California. And Chavez Ravine is the cathedral. And you can directly go back to Fernando Valenzuela and his story and what that meant, and the Dodgers are still reaping the benefits of Fernando Mania. All these years later, right? All these years. Now, he grew up in an impoverished town in western Mexico, the son of farmers, and became this bigger-than-life hero for the Dodgers in the days before social media, when it just mattered a little more. Things were not watered down the way they often are now, and everything. Everyone's a TikTok star and all that. And in tribute, now Fernando's not a Hall of Famer. He wasn't a Hall of Fame player, but he's the first. He was the first Dodger player to have his number retired without reaching the Hall of Fame. It had been standard protocol that to get in the Hall of Fame, you had to have, or to get your number retired, rather, you had to have your Hall of Fame status, and Fernando did not, but they retired his number 34, and also inspired one of the great calls of Vin Scully's career. If you have a sombrero, throw it to the sky. But rest in peace, Fernando Valenzuela, and just amazing run in his career, and died way too soon in his early 60s. Had many, many more years to live, but we send our condolences to the people that knew him and people that enjoyed watching him and the whole story. All right, now, there's some other things I wanted to get to quickly, and we'll talk about that. If you want to share some thoughts about Fernando, we'll be here all night. As far as the World Series itself is concerned, we got a lot of downtime before that. The Dodgers in their 4th World Series in 8 years. The Yankees have not gone since way back in 2009. That led to a storyline that has been pumped up over the last 24 hours. Max Muncy was asked about all that. He said he does not think experience will be a factor in the 2024 World Series. He said, you're talking about a team that plays in New York. State's not going to be too big for them. I'm paraphrasing. So let's just we'll address it right now because I know this is going to pop up the next couple of days. Does the Dodgers' vast World Series experience matter at all? And I'm going to answer that by shaking my head no. Shaking my head no. And I would advise you to not fall for the okie doke. Right? We talk about this every postseason in every sport. The same storylines get tossed out. And my position has been very consistent on postseason experience. Playoff experience, or in this case, World Series experience, is a country cousin of some other things that annoy me. Momentum, Uncle Mo. Home field advantage, locker room chemistry, savvy veterans, championship pedigree, bulletin board material. These are all things that are pet peeves of mine. And World Series experience is on the big board here. It's mainly used to set a game up and to tell you what's supposed to happen, and then also to explain the outcome of the game. Of course, it's forgotten when the unexpected result happens, meaning that home field or meaning that championship experience didn't matter at all. And it's just who handles the immense pressure. The matchups don't matter. The film doesn't matter. None of it matters. Injuries don't matter. The Dodgers are on their 5th and 6th level pitching at this point. All that matters is who goes out starting on Friday night and does better in that moment. Who doesn't urinate down their leg? And who doesn't suck at a time you cannot suck? That's what matters. Now, final thought. As far as the World Series is concerned, we found out that Jack Flaherty will get the start in game number 1 of the World Series. Is that the right call by Dave Roberts? So on this one, I am agnostic. I would have gone with Yoshinobu Yamamoto in game 1. I would have started Yamamoto in game 1. Flaherty absolutely pooped the bed. There was feces in the air everywhere his last start against the Mets in the NLCS, and it is important for him, I get it, to start at Dodger Stadium. Right? That's the soul food, the home cooking. You don't trust him on the road. He's not in the bubble of trust anymore. But I would have started Yamamoto in game 1 because the Dodgers are unwilling to have players go above and beyond the call of duty because, it's the World Series and the playoffs and all that. So they're not going to push anyone. Old school baseball would be, all right, we got to try to win a championship. Let's have you pitch when you don't normally pitch and see if you can test the boundaries of the human body. Yamamoto's not willing to do that from what we understand. And so you're going to start him in game 1, and then you get extra rest because you can only pitch twice that way, assuming the series goes that long. But now you start him in game 2. I don't even know if he's going to be able to pitch in another game in the World Series. He's that soft. Starting him in game 1 would have given you a little more time down the backside. And as far as Flaherty, who knows? I mean, the way he pitched against the Mets gives you pause. He has not had any real test against the Yankees. He had one start with the Cardinals a couple years ago, or I guess last year, and they didn't have Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup. Didn't pitch against the Yankees as a Tiger this year. So to my knowledge, unless I'd missed it, I don't think he's faced Judge or Giancarlo Stanton. And he has had some success against Juan Soto, but it's a small sample size. And we do know the Dodgers are going with Walker Buehler in one of the games in the Bronx, and another one of the games will be the dreaded bullpen game in the Bronx. So that's how it sets up, and Garrett Cole will start game one for the Yankees.